and Mickey.
Hello and welcome to
Dave
and Mickey's Shiny Side Out on Revolution Radio on Revolution.radio.
That's the
right,
truth.
on freedomsteps.com. That's who we are, that's what it is, that's where we're going. Beautiful. Home to ideas that are fresh, uncensored. Uncensored, that's true. They're not censored. We're going to talk about that in a second. Ooh, what a nice segue I've given you there for later. This is show number 600, not 500. What are you doing?
53.
653. 500, that was 3 years ago. Hey, get to the program. You can catch us on the air, on the line, and on your smart device to grab an app to listen anywhere. Listen at home on Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. And that's on the line all the time. That's right, you know it's true. You missed 2 hours of the show, that's okay. It's not good, but it's okay. You can go to the archives, which are free. Catch her there. Solaris is definitely a show you want to listen to. It's fantastic. Archives, like I said, are free. Now, before we start broadcasting in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it is currently the Dark and Jung.
thank you, sir. For myself, of course, the Dark People, and we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And my Skype has become completely unreadable. I can't see any of your messages, just to let you know, Dave. It's still up and running, clearly, but I just can't see it. That's hilarious. It's blank. It's literally a white field. I've got the Skype application open and it's white! Hey. That's
You get
just
that?
one of those things. It's just, you know, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do that?
Hey, it's okay. It's all right. We'll take it.
It's funny,
We'll
Mickey,
get there.
when someone says to me, you know, so what does it do? I've got this comment stored, ready to fire. I go, it looks like it's doing it now. It's just sitting
Doing
there,
it
whatever it is.
Whatever, it's doing it. Look at it. Hey,
There it is.
What?
Yeah.
Opa, hey.
Opa. No, it's very funny. It makes me laugh. They stare at me like I got 2 heads. That's fine.
But
let them.
That also means I can't send Dave the show notes.
No.
That's funny.
Look, let's just pretend it's a ventriloquist act. Yeah. And you can just read it, all of it. That's great.
That's not going to happen.
That works.
No, we're going to figure this out somehow.
Or make
But
it.
look.
Let me start. Let me just use your segue. I want to use that segue that you've built up already. And that's about the unfiltered ideas and conversations. I want to say this because not all countries, not all of them, understand that free speech isn't, number one, it's not free, and it usually costs a lot of effort to keep it in place. It isn't something that you should just, look, it's written there on a bit of paper that says we can do it. I'm looking at you, the US. Because all the other countries who thought they had something, at least something, even though in Australia we don't have any specific wording that says you can say whatever you want. A lot of publications and media and journalists, and you name them, they get in trouble for saying the wrong things, and they get hauled through the courts and sued for defamation. Now that should always stand. It should always stand. In America, there's a ruling that says you can say what you want as long as within a reasonable amount of time you've issued a retraction, if it's incorrect. Which gives the media outlets at least a way of being able to back out of something that they've now discovered is not true, or has been has changed. The situation has changed, so they can do that. It's sad, Mickey. It's so sad watching what's happening in England, where the current person sitting in the big chair is making it. They're tightening the rules and making it impossible for any kind of speech, should it possibly offend someone in the future. Possibly. It may. I think the word legalese uses may. So even if you've only got 3 followers and no one's read it, you can still be found guilty and have a jail sentence in England because of something you wrote that may offend someone outside of your circle who has, public turned on, and you've issued it to them, and then one of their friends can see it.
That's insane, Dave. That is, because I tell you why it's insane. Because I like to watch stand-up comedy. I really do, right?
Yes, comedy is
Ricky Gervais and
the basis of our
Jimmy
civilization.
Carr. Oh yeah, Jimmy Carr and those guys are extremely offensive. Like, in fact, they go out of their way to offend people. But it's comedy, right? It's a stand-up.
That's right.
But you everybody should understand it's comedy. What you just said, though, right? I don't even know how to describe that. If on the off chance that someone gets you can't really
maybe
say. Yeah, it may be, but okay, come on, right?
It's a future crime.
That's as stretchy as a rubber ducky. So it's really
rubber ducky. You're the one.
It's completely insane to even entertain a notion such as that.
How?
I mean, it's yeah, okay. Merry Christmas. Oh, I'm offended.
So because of the current situation in England, a judge has sentenced. I think it's I only think it's a 60-year-old lady. That's what I've heard from people who live in England, to jail. I think 4 years jail or something for something she wrote. And it wasn't what I would call offensive. I understand. I'm Gen X. I got pretty thick skin. You can tell me something to my face and I'm not going to really hate you on it. Yeah? I'm really not. But, Mecki, apparently they've had to change the laws now. The Prime Minister in England has changed the ruling to say that you can release inmates after 40% of their sentence has been served, so they can make room for the people that have been found guilty for writing something.
I know.
Writing something. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't even have to be awful. It just has to have the ability to may offend someone in the future, and that's bad.
No, it's not bad. No, forget bad. This is completely insane.
Yeah.
Just think about the logic here, and this is the same logic that is applied to people that I mean, I'm not a friend of piracy, video piracy, or whatever, but those guys, the New Zealand guy, got a harsher sentence than a serial killer rapist.
Oh, is that one that was extradited?
That's the one.
Yeah.
You think about that for a second. What? And then now, certainly we have whistleblowers and all kinds of things. I mean, you can see how that could be damaging to really powerful interests. Like, if you're a whistleblower, and I can understand why they do the things they do. I don't agree with it. I think it's completely wrong, and whistleblowers should be protected. Assange, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But at least you can follow the logic of the people in power. This makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. It's completely nonsensical.
Yeah,
think about social credit. Sorry, think about social credit for a second.
That's the very next thing that you can imagine is going to happen.
Right?
And once you've filled the jails up with people who've written something online, then you're going to have to do something. You'll have to instigate, because that'll be the next problem that arises. Oh, the jails are full. So, okay,
but build bigger jails.
Yeah, well, that's one, but that'll take too long to stand up. So how about we just instigate a social credit system, and then we'll restrict. It's like the panopticon, Mecki, right? You're going to start self-policing.
Yes, and yes. That's absolutely going.
Yes.
But it's completely. But this is the thing. I mean, why isn't? Look, I watched with the family. We watched The Book Thief last night. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie. It's set in World War II,
no.
prior to, and essentially it's about a girl a girl's experience during those troubled times, and there's her father, her stepfather steps in when they're taking away a Jew, a butcher, and they found out that he was actually a Jew, and now they're coming to take him away. And he steps forward and tries to stop them. Right? He pushes them to the ground, etc. And the girl asks her stepmother, why are they so hard on Papa? Well, because he reminded them of their humanity. Right? And it's this complete insanity where people just go along with stuff that doesn't make any sense. And for his troubles, he was sent to fight the war, just like my grandfather, incidentally.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what happens. This is what happens. And this, Dave, if that's actually the case, right?
Yeah.
Then we have crossed over into now certifiably insane, because it makes no sense. Whose agenda are we now supporting? And I tell well, the answer is obvious. You want to have people as docile and controllable and non-rebellious as possible. Do not step out of line, essentially, is the answer here, right? Think 1,000 times about what you say. It's the end of me, I can tell you that. It's completely ended my existence. And that's what this is, Dave. This makes no sense in any world. If somebody maybe or might be offended, what? I mean, okay, you have to destroy all movies made before 1980. All of them. They have to be burned.
Mm-hmm.
We could burn them down. Okay, then we get all statuary, all statues, all publicly named places have to be renamed. All statues have to be destroyed, because they did something that offended someone somewhere.
Remember, Mickey, that you can be offended for something that might not actually be offensive to anybody else. It's just you.
Yes, yeah, just
so
me.
You might have a feeling that says, that statue doesn't represent me at all, and I'm offended by that.
Yeah.
It isn't. It clearly wasn't that I had a lack of understanding of the history behind it. No, it's just the look of it. I didn't like it. And bronze. Who uses bronze anymore? I don't want to be that tan. That's really bad for you.
Bronze. It offends me.
Yeah. So I want to take this a step further now, and thanks Comet for doing the Mr. Spock. That's most illogical, Captain. So the current bill, Mickey, I know you know about this. There's a current bill currently being tabled in Parliament, and it is standing. It's doing the same thing that England has done, pretty much. Because here we are, we're just sitting here minding our own business, and suddenly our Prime Minister wanted. There's a name for the person who has been appointed like the czar of the internet abuse. And I want to be very careful how I say this, because I don't want to end up in court having to defend myself. In fact, I was thinking of getting a journalist license so that I'm become exempt, and I'll tell you why. So this bill stands for misinformation and disinformation. And it was originally proposed by the Liberal Party here, which is the Liberal National Coalition. Let's not, if you're American, don't think liberal as being left. We've got them all around.
It's centre right. It's really centre right. That's what it is.
Yeah, and so it's now presented by Labor, which is the other party, not Liberals. There's Labor Party, and what it's going to do is effectively prevent financial and health truths, even questions about those two things. For instance, among other things, but they're the big two that we've had recently, from being aired publicly. You won't be able to talk about them because anything you say can and will be held against you. And exempt from this is academia and journalists, and there's some others in there, legal representation, and there's a whole bunch in there who are exempt from this law, but not regular people.
Oh no.
So the regular people won't be able to question anything to do with health or finance. You won't be able to say something like, I've just been watching Bitcoin collapse and I want to take all my money out of the bank because I fear a bank collapse, bank runs. You won't be able to say that anymore because that would land you in court, land you in jail, and you'd be found guilty of going against the bill. These are the possible outcomes of this. Now, I want to say that the government's putting this bill up, and if it gets through, fine. We'll have to work hard to get it back out again at some point in the future, but I think it's a one-way trip, and I also think it's a thin edge of the wedge, and I don't think there's going to be a time in the future where we're ever going to look back and be able to comment about the past. We won't be able to do it because it'll end all freedoms. This is the last lot of freedoms we have. Just remember, Meki, before the internet, you could go to a friend's party. You could be, like a barbecue at their house or something. Not typically Australian. Everyone has barbecues of some kind.
Yeah.
And you'll be standing next to Joe or Bob. No, I use Bob. That's your go-to. So we're standing next to Bob, and you're having a beer, and you've had a couple, and you go, oh, how's that? Blah blah blah. And whatever the question is, and you openly start having your discussion where your filters are off, and now you're talking about it. Now, we don't go out so much anymore. We don't socialize very much anymore. And our social is now online social. Having conversations with friends, not always private. Someone posts something idiotic online, and everyone will give it a serve.
Yeah.
Everyone. No one cares. You're sitting in your bedroom, or you're sitting on the lounge in front of the TV watching a movie. Well, not really watching a movie. You're on your phone, just reading the comments. I never read the comments. The comments are stupid. People are stupid. Just going to say that out loud. I disagree with a lot of people's immediate response without reading anyone else's response or going into any detail. But that's my problem. I have a problem with that. And that's why I kind of step back away from it. And let it happen, Mickey. Let it happen. So, in the same vein, we've got to accept that this will happen across the entire planet, wherever you live, and it'll be created by those, and I think it is created everywhere by those who fear any diversion from their narrative. And that's the end of the story. It's not to protect us. Meki, how can it protect us if we're not allowed to talk about health and finance?
Yeah, these are all things you shouldn't worry your pretty little head with. They're above you. No, look, it's the same argument. How can I put this best? Okay. This you have to understand that all of these things, the foundation for all of these things, and more things to come yet, were laid decades, centuries, and sometimes even millennia ago. Mm-hmm. This sounds crazy. I get it. I know. But ultimately, what the parasites want most is for us to have no voice at all. I mean, there were some hiccups for them over time because there are not many of them. You see, there are not many of them, and there are a lot of us, so it takes time and planning and careful manipulation, etc., to get to a point that they all like. We're getting there very fast, I'll let you know. We're approaching that point very fast. But it is the same thing about vaccinations. Are vaccinations good or bad? Well, vaccinations are good, in my opinion. They're good because they've taken away a whole bunch of diseases that have plagued us since the beginning of time. Yes, smallpox and polio, and there's many others, right? So vaccination in and of itself, I think it's a great idea. I say that. Yeah, you might disagree, that's okay. Is it safe for everybody? No, it's not, but so it's neither is driving or walking in the street, okay, or swimming in the ocean. If you swim in the ocean, there's a risk of you drowning. You get attacked by a shark, or maybe some kind of jellyfish will sting you. So should we ban? Yeah. Oh, should we ban ocean swimming? Well, no, we shouldn't. There's an inherent risk. There's an inherent risk in everything. There's an inherent risk in eating a piece of steak. You could just chew it wrong, swallow it wrong, and die by suffocation because you swallowed it wrong, got the wrong passage in your body, so down the esophagus. Okay, then that's the end of you. So nothing is inherently safe, but there are some things that make sense, right? It's the same with this, Dave. So see, now we can push down all kinds of things into people's bodies. I mean, prior to the Iraq War, first one, by the way, Operation Desert Storm, I think it was called, something like that.
Desert Storm.
They pumped the soldiers, the coalition soldiers, especially Americans, full of all kinds of stuff. We still don't know what it was. Several compounds they injected, right? And a lot of people got sick. It was called the Gulf War syndrome. Look it up.
That's what it was called.
But no one questioned it, or very few people did, because, well, we hadn't got so used to vaccines, which are good, right? That we no longer really question when we get stuff. I mean, it's the same with what happened with SARS-CoV-2, right? We didn't really question it. I mean, some people question. Of course, they have a right to question. Of course, they have a right to question it. And there's certain outcomes that we now know occurred. But I'm not going to discuss this because we still want to talk about the show and have it uploaded somewhere. It's not going to be. But my point is this: you create something, and it's generally a good thing, right? And once you've done that, and then you have to give a lot of time for it to sink into the general population, then you can use it for whatever you want. Economics, psychiatry. Same thing. In and of themselves, I mean, you think economics, that's a good thing. That's good science. It's not that old. I'll tell you what, economics is a pseudoscience. It's a social science. There are no concrete. It's not like mathematics or physics, right? Or biology or chemistry, where you do one thing and you know what the outcome is because this is what happens. It's just a natural law. Economics is not that. Psychiatry and psychology are not that. They're social sciences, and by that very definition, completely inaccurate when it comes to trying to predict things, right? Sometimes they get things right, but most of the time they get things wrong. I mean, Alan Greenspan got his economic theory wrong all his life. Mm-hmm. He said that. Oh, no, I was wrong all my life, I guess. What? Yeah, that's what happens because it is not accurate. So, to answer your question, Dave, right? They set up these things that come along, right? And then we think, oh, this is a good thing. Right? Oh, this is a good thing, and that's a good thing, like tolerance, and internet bullying, and misinformation or disinformation or hate speech or anything like. We say, yeah, we shouldn't have that, and I agree, we shouldn't. It's not a good thing to have, right? But then you can build on that, and now we're in a place that is completely insane. To your point, because this has been set up over a long time, and in our mind, we've agreed with most of the things that have happened, and now we come up on a thing which makes no sense at all. But it's almost too late not to agree. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
It's almost too late to say something because, well, if you've agreed with everything else, this is just the next thing that makes sense. And before you know it, you can't say Merry Christmas in school anymore. And this is where we are. We can't say Merry Christmas. You can't.
That's
we
gone.
send seasons. Yeah, we send seasons greetings. Seasons greetings. Okay. What?
Happy Festivus, Mackie.
Happy Festivus for the rest of us.
That's right.
And this is the funny thing is this, Dave. This is another thing that's really funny. This is a phenomenon that only exists in Western-style nations. Nowhere else. Nowhere else. And Russia and China and a lot of African and South American nations, Muslim nations, they look at us and go, what the heck are you doing? What? Like what? What? It goes hand in hand with our no, don't offend anyone attitude. No, everybody is precious. Everybody has to be wrapped in cotton wool. Or you can't offend anyone. The woke movement, the attempt, I think, to whitewash history. You can't even say whitewash anymore. Greywash history, right? And
I'm offended by that.
It went so far. There was a brand of cheese here in Australia. A brand of cheese. It was called Coons.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The reason it was called Coons because it came from the town of Coons. Okay. No other connotation. There was no racial slur intended.
No.
Nothing.
No.
And now, you know what they're calling it now?
Can I say
The
it?
brand?
Cheer.
That's right. What? That's it. Coon. Coon. It was a place. It was a. Who cares?
Mickey, you sound like the CEO of the company, right? It was a
And in
place.
In fact, it was named after a dude, Edward William Kuhn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Edward William Kuhn. He painted a process in the manufacture of cheese that was back in Philadelphia in the United States, blah blah. But they had to change it.
Yeah.
Change it.
They were forced to change it because they didn't want to offend anyone. People said they were offended by the name, and once again, didn't know the history.
No, and we have to, like I said, the truth is this. So now we have to tear down all statues of everyone prior to 1980, I guess.
I remember there was a request to change the town Blacktown, change the name.
Yeah, it's now Greytown.
You can't have it. He's lying. He's joking. So
I am joking.
I know you are joking, but this was after reasonable thought and conversation. It was decided not to go down that path. And that has to be considered. Knee-jerk reaction to everything just to get a vote absolutely does my head in. I hate the fact that they do that. Oh, yeah. Go on.
Sorry, I love Tintin. I do. I love Tintin.
Yes.
Right? Hirsch was, in my opinion, a genius cartoonist. Mm-hmm. The stories are fantastic and timeless as well, right?
Yeah.
I did enjoy the movie, but anyway, the point is this:
for me, it was like science fiction for children.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at the way he drew Asians or Africans, right? Mm-hmm. In a today completely and racially stereotypical way. It wouldn't be acceptable to draw them this way. I'm just waiting for someone to say, "Oh yeah, Tintin, that's not going to take it off the shelf. It is racially offensive." Movies, Uncle Tom's Hut. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and other things like. And actually, there are many movies like that. Oh, Bonanza. I don't know, but Bonanza is like I grew up with it. It's probably a 1960s American Western show, and they had an Asian or Chinese cook called Hop Sing on the show, and I mean, yeah, well, but, yeah, of course there were Chinese cooks in those days, but again, is it the way it was made fun of in the show? Is it racially appropriate?
Jerry Lewis's movie, Mackie, that was cringy. Oh. Right, even I'm not even offended by much, yeah. But even I went, oh, that's a bit hard.
Well,
but that was exactly the exposure at the time. That was the exposure that people had on the very perimeter of another culture.
Yeah,
and
don't forget,
that's people's original view of another culture until you get to know
it. But see, this is true. So you need to remember two very important things. Very few non-Europeans made it to Europe in large communities to settle. Very few. Mm-hmm. Some, but very few. Like I'm talking about people of different color and different features, like Asians or Africans or such, right? Very few. In fact, I never saw an African person in real life until I came to Australia. You're thinking, how's that possible? Well, it's just what it was back then, right? Same with America. People of racial minorities, they would be in not in official ghettos, but they would be segregated, like in Chinatowns, for example. The Asians would be in Chinatown, Chinese, right? That's where they would be. In Australia, if you go to the 1950s and 1960s and you look at the footage of Australia, any video footage, any pictures, anything at all, anywhere, it's completely lily white.
It was white Australia, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was, of course, there've been Asians in Australia since the gold rushes, right?
That's right.
But very few, and the vast majority of Australian cities might as well have been taken in a European setting at that time because there was no difference.
That's right.
Yeah, it was white Australia. There was a white Australia only policy until the 1970s, right? It's changed significantly now, obviously, considering where Australia is, physically and geographically. Then, that's one thing that I find hilarious, and I mentioned it before. But we talk about the Middle East in Australia, okay? We talk about Middle East politics, which makes no sense. Because I watched this Indian news channel in English that talked about Western Asia. Like, Never heard that term before, really.
Yeah.
But they kept mentioning it. Of course, what they meant is the Middle East, because
That's
for
right.
them in India,
It's
the Middle
next
East,
door to all
you know,
the stands.
yeah, it's Western Asia. Of course,
That's
it is.
right.
And it should be for us because we're in Australia. We're east of the Far East. We are east of the Far East.
Oh, there's nothing else. East. It's
Please.
the ice wall, Mickey. And you...
Australia, that's right. Australian government, please realize where we are. We are east of the Far East.
That's
We're
right.
east of China. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's just think about that for a second. So it's all a matter of perspective, and it speaks to a mindset though, Dave, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and to the point of censorship and not offending anyone. People have a completely warped sense of identity. And they have a warped sense of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. You can't do and say anything anymore. That's why I love to watch Rick Gervais host the Oscars or whatever.
Yes.
Any award show,
He
really.
says everything.
Because, and he's not wrong either. I mean, I
No, he's
totally
not
agree
wrong.
with everything
and
he
that's the
says.
funniest part.
Yeah, but he's usually right. And this is what I've found as well over the last, obviously, Dave and I
Mm-hmm.
watch a lot of comedy, but over the many years of my existence, I realized that the smartest people, or some of the smartest people, are in fact stand-up comedians, because you have to be
That's
quick.
right. Mm-hmm.
You got to be quick. You got to understand context. You got to be up to date. I mean, not every stand-up comedian is great, but the great ones, they are painfully smart,
Mm.
and I admire that, and I really like what they give me. Offensive, yes, but it's comedy, right?
That's
When Dave
that's
and I
what
do
you
this,
expect. Mm-hmm.
that's what you expect. When Dave and I do this show, look, we hope to bring people information, maybe information they haven't had before. But there's an entertainment factor to this show, of course, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why listen to it if it doesn't entertain you as well?
That's
I mean,
right.
this is not an educational program, okay? So there's no test at the end of the semester. But we
Will
try
we be
to-
tested on that?
You will. We try to bring a bit of humor into our presentations as well. But for crying out loud, if you're offended, don't listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ricky Gervais, I agree with him 100%. Don't come and listen to this show if it offends you. Don't go somewhere else and find your people. If we offend you, we're not your people. We're just not.
That's right.
And that's okay. But that's the freedom we have. But now what Dave has just shared with you, right, is that this freedom is going to be taken away. Because I
So,
guarantee you. Yeah, go on.
Oh, I wanted to take it back a notch and say, when I grew up, all the
Sorry, yeah.
westerns. When I grew up, Mickey, all of the westerns that we saw didn't have, when it had American Indians or traditional custodians of the land over there, they were Hollywood actors
Mm-hmm.
with some wood stain. That's who was playing those characters. You recognized them,
Yes.
right? Were still in the spaghetti western because they were not filmed traditionally in the US, and so knowing that, looking at it now, I'm not appalled by it. I just recognize the time, the way it was filmed. Now, in more relevant times, Becky, you and I, we're familiar with The Simpsons, and when the backlash came that you can't have Apu voiced by a white male,
Hank Azaria. Yeah.
it can't be Hank Azaria. It must be an Indian person, American Indian. No, sorry, American Indian, a person from India. I thought they were a neutralist nation. So that's from Maxwell Smart, that quote. That's what really started to ring alarm bells. I know there was alarm bells before that, and I know that even if I look back on TV from the 90s, I see that we've grown as people. I really see it. I see the way that even in sci-fi, Star Trek was written originally very, very macho, and there was very little that the female characters gave to the storyline, apart from getting kissed by Captain Kirk or chased, say. Now it's different. I think everyone has a fair place, and they add to the script. They're adding to the story. And there was an award, Mecca. You know, there's an award for screen time and conversation. This is both in film and books, where two females are talking, but they're not talking about men. They're talking about their day-to-day happenings. And there was a huge shift when that first occurred, and now it's something that I look for. If there's a film scene where two females are talking to each other, that it isn't about men, and it's removing that, I suppose, male-focused script writing, and it's broadened. And because I'm going to say this out loud, we're not that important as to have two females on screen talking about us. Can you see what I mean? Think about what it took for us to grow past that, and I think that's very important. I think that's one of those steps where we just are becoming a person. I mean, in a good sense. I don't mean gender. I'm not talking gender here, or gender identity. So I think that's really important. I always figured the life that I thought, Mecca, would be fantastic would be if we just boiled all the rules down to the word person and have no other reference to a human in there. Rather than human, put person. So you can wipe out at least half the rules. And that to me is really important. But you can finish the thought, and I've got something else to talk about.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Okay. Well, I'm sharing my middle screen since I can't send it to you because you can't see it because you Skype.
I can't.
No, and this
is.
I was wrong by a whole factor here. I typed into our comments earlier on. I said 50,000 kids in Gaza now vaxxed against polio. Do I think that's a good idea? Yes, everyone should be vaccinated against polio. Polio is terrible. But I was wrong. It's 560,000 children in Gaza now vaccinated against polio as first round of campaign ends. That would be the polio vaccination campaign, I would suggest. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you get to see the story, and this is from CNN. I'm not commenting any more than that, whether it's positive or negative. It's not up to me to decide. The World Health Organization would certainly have a comment of their own to make about it, and that's where I stand. So there are conversations on the internet who are talking about this in ways that I don't support, and I won't mention it. I just want to put that out there. So while we're seeing all of this, all the bad things that are going on in Gaza right now, and I agree that they're bad, at least there's some progress, if I have to say that.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, there was a news story which I don't care to share on my middle screen, but I wanted to say something really cool, Becky. In Rome, there is a photo from a day ago of birds in flight. And I wanted to make this a scientific joke about climate change mitigation. There are so many birds in the sky that it's actually darkened the sky. It's cutting
I saw that. Yeah.
Cutting out the sunlight. So, less sunlight on the ground. That's good. Cools the ground. If only we could enlist them somehow. How can we get them more active on this? Maybe globally. I don't know. It's better than making a vapor cloud between us and the sun. That can't go south on us anytime soon, can it?
That's fine. I think there's no problems there at all.
So there was a news story the other day about that, and I didn't want to harp on it or take too much time, because I do believe the climate is changing. That's me. That's all I'm.
It is. No. Look, but again, look. This is where people get really upset, I guess. But climate change is what happens all the time. We know the climate on this planet has changed over time. We know there have been different climate events. We know there have been ice ages. You'd be a moron to deny it. That's climate change on steroids. You've got an ice age, right? So, but I think what is being debated, and fair enough too, right? What is the reason, or what is the ultimate source of responsibility for that climate change, right? And this is where people get their knickers in a knot, saying, "Oh, it's not humans." Well, maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. I don't know. We're certainly contributing because we're here. So whatever we do will affect our world around us in some way, right?
Yeah.
It just will. I mean, scientists have said there was methane in the past that caused a whole bunch of climate change. That's when the dinosaurs were farting, right? Seriously. Maybe. I don't know.
They're herbivores. It's going to happen. Cows, same thing happens.
Yeah, but forest fires, we said it before, we'll say it again. Forest fires in the world are the biggest, single biggest contributor to the release of greenhouse gases. Forest fires, that's it. Bigger than anyone else, okay? Bigger than China, America. No, but it's really, it's how you look at the world. And we've become almost like children. We are no longer able to intelligently discuss things and form our own opinions and understand there's more than one opinion in the room potentially, right? And just because you and just because you disagree with something doesn't mean they're your enemy, right? That's not what. This just means we have different ideas about different things. It's just that's who we are, right?
Mackie, using the fish in the fish tank. It's a large fish.
Yes.
In a tank, and it can't turn around.
Yeah.
All right. I had a friend with a fish like that once. Now, if you look at it from the side, same fish, and it looks different if you look at it from the end. So you only see a face. It's a skinny fish. You don't know how long it is, and if you look at it from the side, you don't get to see kind of like the face of the fish, right? You don't get to see how skinny it is. You just see it's very long. You're talking about the same thing.
That's right.
If you're talking about the fish.
Different point of view. I mean, if you look at the number 9 written on the ground, in not in like digital form, but like cursive, like nice rounded. If you're standing in front of it and you see the number 9 on the ground, what you see is the number 9. The person directly opposite you will look on the ground and see the number 6.
That's right.
You're both right. Right?
Yeah,
you're both correct. And that's why they put a little line under it, in games sometimes, 6 and 9, so you know the difference. But if you look at this is the same thing for everybody. I mean, this is going to sound extremely philosophical, and we're now getting into the ontology of it all, but I know what a peach tastes like to me.
Yeah.
I bite into a peach, I eat a peach, I know what a peach tastes like to me. However, I have no idea what a peach tastes like to anyone else. All I know is my own experience of the peach. I don't know your experience. I don't know Dave's experience. I don't know my wife's or kids' experience of a peach. I assume it's the same, but it might not be. Right? So we have a whole bunch of working assumptions. And sometimes when people disagree on things, it's because they just have a different experience of the same thing. The same thing, but a completely different experience. So I tell you what, I see a mixed race couple walking down the street. I don't know, let's say an African man and a like really dark and a blonde and blue-eyed woman. Like they're clearly married, they have kids, mixed kids with them. I think, what a wonderful world we live in, where that's possible. Yeah, the same event might trigger someone else thinking, oh, what a terrible crime this is, to mix races like this. Right? Same event, completely different experiences, and all of that is, of course, based on how you grew up as well, right? On how you view the world. Okay, and it's, look, as long as it doesn't harm anyone, you can believe whatever you like. I don't care. Believe whatever you want. If no one else comes to harm in any way, physical or psychologically or emotionally, that's fine. Do whatever you want, right? But as soon as the line is crossed, then you have a problem. And unfortunately, I think with our political correctness and wokeness, we're crossing the line now, Dave, into actually hurting people. We've started to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thinking about the people who were never confronted with. If I was going to isolate a group of people that in England would now be suffering greatly, that would be narcissists.
Yeah.
Imagine a narcissist has an online account. They just type whatever they want in, saying whatever they want, and end up in jail. Actually, not so bad. But one thing, Meki, that I think we're missing out here, you grow up with a thicker skin because you've encountered more of it. If you wrap someone in cotton wool, they get no experience, and then
that's true.
Everything is like heightened.
Yes.
The food's. I've got a food segue here. The food's too spicy. That's because they've only eaten white bread or fairy bread. That's when you put butter on white bread slices and you sprinkle hundreds of thousands
on it. Intended.
Yes. So in Australia, it's called fairy bread. That's what it's called, and you served it at children's parties. They've at least get some bread with some butter, and then there's sugar on top, right? Hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Love it. And Americans never really had that, Meki, believe it or not. There's some reaction videos to people eating it for the first time. It's actually not that bad. And you wouldn't want to use any other bread. White bread is the only bread to use for it. But something that I discovered, and it is scientifically a differentiator between two different lines of people going back to a common ancestor who, and Meki, you might know this as cilantro in Thai food, or coriander, depending on where you live in the world.
That's right.
That there are people who taste it as tasting like dish soap.
Yeah.
And then there's the rest of us. I don't mind coriander. I kind of like it. I've always been exposed to Asian food, Thai food, and I think it's awesome, right? Luckily for me, because I wouldn't be able to have my Luxes, I'll tell you that. Or it got nice ramen. Is it coriander in ramen, Meki? It could.
Oh, look, I think you find coriander everywhere, I'm afraid.
Yeah, good. At least it's not like
all
onion.
Asian dishes.
I missed a meeting on onion where everyone decided you had to put onion in everything. For some reason.
Right up there with garlic.
But they've now, science, has discovered that there's actually a genetic difference between the people.
Yeah.
It's not a like or dislike. And you can, how often have you, my kids are pretty good, but I've seen other parents have trouble with their kids go, I don't like it. You can just eat it. And the kid's crying. The parents are going, you've got to eat it. It's just food. Just eat the food. Yeah, but it tastes awful. And you're making them eat something that now we've learned you can be genetically, disposed, I suppose, to not liking it at all. Can taste hideous. When I was a kid, Meki, I had to have tomato with salt on it. Sliced fresh tomato with salt on it. Otherwise, it just, I couldn't eat it at all. Just tasted awful.
Really?
Awful. Yeah. But now I can eat it just fine.
Well, again, the taste buds change over time as well.
They do.
That's normal.
Yeah. So
I hated eggplant. Couldn't eat it. Made me gag.
Oh, I can't. I still can't eat eggplant. But did you know that eggplant and potatoes share something?
Oh, really?
Do you know what it is?
I do not.
They both have nightshade as an ancestor.
Oh, yeah. Nightshade. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I knew that. Sorry.
See, you did know.
I just didn't know you're going with there,
So there's a thing. There was a story about a house being left to the children who turn up after it's bequeathed to them when the person passed away. It's a story. It's probably just an urban myth, but they go into the basement to have a look, and someone opens up this crate, and it had rotting potatoes in it. And when they do that, they all die. All the people there then die, and then the people that went down to find them, some of them died, and some who didn't make it all the way down the stairs to go and breathe that environment, because nightshade's pretty bad, and rotting potatoes was the story. That's the punchline for the story. And I started thinking, wow, really? That's when I learned about nightshade at that point. And nightshade's really bad. Like, that's
you don't sprinkle it on your toast in the morning.
no. So it made sense to me that I didn't like eggplant. My mum's like, oh, you've got to have it. She would make like eggplant lasagna.
That's nice.
And I was like, no, I really don't. I don't know why I don't like it. I like everything else in it. Can I just have it without the eggplant? Or you can take it out. It's like, oh no, I can taste it. It's like olives on a pizza. Someone goes, oh, just remove the olive. Wherever it was sitting, tastes like olive. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I can't do honey either, but that's another reason. You have to read my book for that. But Meki,
but you're wrong in that book.
I am wrong. Apparently, I'm wrong.
Sorry, that's hilarious.
I know. It's still so funny to this day that every time I see it, because I get little notices that someone's purchased it or whatever, and I just go, oh wow, I wonder if I'm wrong to them. Yeah, good on you. So Meki, I know we've got 2 minutes left. Can you believe it?
Oh wow, really? Jeez.
Yeah. And I want to say, Meki and I, before the show, we talked about the word crazy and how we described the word crazy. Meki, can you take us through that?
Crazy?
Yeah, crazy. Like, we shouldn't be calling everything crazy anymore because it's only getting crazier.
Sorry. Oh, with you. Mm-hmm. No, look, it's like the superstorms, right? I mean, at some point, or 1 in a 100-year event. If it happens every week, it's no longer a 1 in a 100-year event. It just isn't. It's not the new normal. You have to worry about the real 1 in a 100-year event now, right? And same with crazy. We're calling everything crazy, which is true. Everything is crazy. But if everything is crazy, that means it's the new normal. And we have to worry about what the new crazy is, right? Because the world we find ourselves in is completely insane. So we have to stop calling it that. Because the crazy is happening every day. So that makes it the normal, right? If it's happening every day, it's normal. So let's call it the normal event, or the normal everyday routine that we all go through or experience. So I'm just worried about what the new crazy will be. I really do. Because
the weather phenomenon that's just honestly, we're ramping up every year.
Europe is drowning. Have you seen it? Not just Europe, but Asia. Europe and Asia, they're all drowning. In America, I think America's flooding too. I mean, everybody's
and
drowning.
Burning.
And fire, flood, pestilence. What's next? But yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's you have to stop calling it a superlative or an unusual thing like crazy. You have to stop. You just call it the world. This is now the world. I mean, have you heard of that lady in France? Her husband drugged her and then had like 50 men like over time,
really?
Of course, not all at once, rape her. Wow. And he found that really rocked his boat. And now all these men are all these 50 men, including the husband, are now on trial for rape. What?
And there's the music. There you go. Bedtime stories for David Meki. We're going to see you in a short while after this break, and we'll be coming back and we'll be talking about the recent date that's just gone by, 9/11. Stay tuned.